Hi everybody and welcome to this week's Tune In Tuesday. Thank you so much to all of you that tuned in last week to see what I got up to whilst on a 2-week field course to Kenya with my Conservation Science and Policy course at the University of Exeter. If you haven't yet had a chance to check it out and you love wildlife, then please do, as it features some pretty awesome individuals. And of course, I'm talking about the wildlife and not just my course mates and lecturers. Whilst we were in Kenya, we had a unique opportunity to see firsthand what conservation issues they're facing in Kenya. But also we were able to witness some of the innovative initiatives that they've implemented to tackle some of these issues. As I promised last week, I'm now going to be producing some Tune-In Tuesdays in the following weeks to address some of these issues, to delve deeper into them and to find some more detail of what we were seeing and also how they were able to deal with it. So let's dive in. The first issue that I'd like to talk about is one that I talk about almost every single day: plastic pollution. As most of us are aware, unfortunately, plastic really has reached every corner of the globe. From the tallest mountain to the deepest ocean, from pole to pole, plastic can be found everywhere. And yes, unfortunately, this means that when we were in Kenya, we were noticing plastic pollution as well. In every national park that we visited, there was evidence of littered plastic waste. On one occasion, we were hiking through the Aberdares National Park, and first off, bar the southwest, it was literally the most beautiful place I've ever seen. As we were hiking higher and higher, we could literally see the vegetation transition lines with our bare eyes. That is when we weren't overexcited over seeing the bottom of an alpine elephant over in the distance. But as we were hiking and we got to a waterfall at the end of the hike where we're having our lunch, all I had collected was a side pocket full of plastic waste that had been littered. Now this is quite a small amount considering how much we find on our beach cleans. This could be due to the fact that it's a national park, it's a protected area, but have a listen to this clip of my recent BBC Spotlight interview where I give a reason why this might be. That Kenya 2 years ago implemented one of the most strict bag bans in the entire world, which has even seen people facing prison sentences for manufacturing, selling or importing plastic bags. So if it's due to that and the consumer changes and the behaviour changes because of that initiative, is that something that we could implement here? And it's this kind of sharing ideas and solutions that we really need for conservation. So, hefty fines or even jail sentences for people caught selling, manufacturing or importing plastic bags. Since this scheme was introduced in 2017, the government reports an 80% reduction in the usage of plastic bags in Kenya. So I'm interested to know what you guys think of this initiative, and is it something that you think the UK government should be implementing? Or do you think that the 5p carrier bag charge that was implemented in 2015 is enough, which reportedly has seen an 86% reduction in the sales of plastic bags in big supermarkets in the UK? Apparently, the scheme in Kenya was introduced after a study found that 50% of cattle found near urban areas were found to have ingested plastic bags. Now this reminds me of a story that happened last year very locally in Porthcothan Bay, where a calf was found to have ingested used dog poo bags, which ultimately led to its death. Ingestion of plastic materials, as we're all aware, is not the only problem that faces wildlife when it comes to plastic, both here in the UK and in Kenya. Every single year, 640,000 tonnes of fishing gear is lost or discarded into the ocean, making up about 10% of all marine plastic waste. Now you might be wondering, well, how does this come into what we were noticing in Kenya? Fortunately, we didn't see any of the big five tangled in plastic waste. But on one occasion, when we were on a boat trip in Lake Naivasha, we did see something that was all too familiar. This is a cormorant, a species you can also find ducking and diving around the coast of the UK. We noticed the bird struggling towards the end of the trip and thought we'd better take a closer look. Our boat's captain did not hesitate to take a sharp 90-degree turn and headed straight towards the frantic animal. As soon as we approached, it was clear that it was totally and completely entangled in a fishing net. Luckily, our boat driver knew exactly what to do. He pulled up alongside, gently put a wooden oar over the bird's head to stop it biting his rescuer, and he got to work cutting away the net and released the bird once again. Once animals are entangled in plastic waste, typically they cannot free themselves. This can lead to things like starvation, drowning. It can cause deep, painful lacerations in the animal's body, which can lead to infection and ultimately death. I cannot say with confidence that the bird that we freed would have survived because it did sustain injuries when it was entangled in the net. But what I can say is that now that bird was freed, then it reduces the risk of other animals becoming entangled. Remember, there are numbers for you to call if you ever come across an instance like this down here in the southwest, which are on the screen now. So, what is being done to tackle plastic waste in Kenya? Well, like in the UK, there are communities coming together all over the country to tackle plastic waste. But there's one organisation that I think you might be familiar with. The FlipFloppy is the world's first sailing boat made entirely from plastic waste and flip-flops collected from beaches and towns on the Kenyan coast. This phenomenal project began when the project's founder, Ben Morrison, was struck by the amount of plastic, especially flip-flops, that he found littered on the same beaches that he was marketing as luxury holiday destinations via his job as a Kenyan tour operator. Who ever said that one person couldn't make a difference? So as you can see, the problems that we found with plastic whilst in Kenya are not so different to the problems that we have on our own front doorsteps. In fact, there was only one moment where I felt like I was seeing something new. You could even say that I felt like the problem had been flipped upside down. This is because when we were walking around the border of Nairobi National Park, we noticed in the trees was plastic waste. Now, I asked the local chief of why this was happening, and he said that because of recent floodwaters reaching such extreme levels, the water was actually flowing up through the branches of the trees and leaving plastic in its path. Which leads me perfectly onto my next problem that I'd like to talk about next week of extreme weather change and climate change. Because of course, we were visiting Kenya in the dry season. Why was there recent flooding that put the plastic in the trees in the first place? So thank you so much for watching this week's Tune In Tuesday, and I'll see you next week for next week's episode.